I just want to jump in for a second. You're right. There's this thing that we need to celebrate. My only worry a little bit, though, is I think at times, because even Jason read a narrative about how he played chess and how he did this, and while that is all great and good, I think the problem will be that people will think they've got to do this one thing, right? That I can't play basketball and be smart to make it to the valedictorian. I got to play chess. I got to do this. And so you're going to have two types of groups here. You're going to have a group that says, good for you, go, you do that. Then you're going to have another group that's almost going to do that code switching, saying, oh, those are white people things, which it's not. But people are going to go in that mode, right? And because they're going to want to say, oh, this is what you had to do to be valedictorian. And so it could also start up a little bit of confusion or a little bit of frustration saying, I've got to do these certain things to get to that point. O'Shea, you jumped in there.
Yeah, no, I think what you guys said was like bang on, and like just to further it, like a lot of us know that like I deal with youth, I deal with junior and senior highs, and the reason why that this is so amazing is we're able to celebrate a minority, a person of color who's educated, who's not playing basketball, who's not rapping, who's not doing all of these things that are considered black people things and what our culture would deem as this is where you need to go to be successful. We now have another outlet where people can look to and be like, man, I can follow education. I can continue my education. I can be the best in that field and be successful. That's where like this is the absolute best. But we were talking about it a little bit earlier on why it's the first one, and I think it was a interview where J. Cole was kind of talking. He was like, yo, a lot of these rappers are looking at just getting in the game and not being the best of the game. And I guess my question that I want to ask everybody is like, do you guys think that that's part of the reason? Like, yes, we all undoubtedly know that there's oppression, that there is favorites in a lot of these different cultures and all of that. But is this a mentality that we've also allowed to be a hindrance in us being successful of, man, we've come from impoverished places. We've come from the hood or ghettos or XY where situations don't stack up. And is this a excuse that we limit ourselves by saying, man, I just want to make it. I just want to break through and just make it and not necessarily be the best at what I'm doing.
It's one of those things that is tough because a lot of the times we're so, especially when we're successful, we're so caught up in trying to break the stereotype and the mode that when we do it, it's like, hey, I did it. I've come out of this system. And then the first thing that people do is they label them sellouts. And it's one of those things that at times it's like, it's this tension of, do I be successful or am I true to where I came from? It's like you can't have one or the other. It's like, I'd love to hear what else you guys have to say about that.
Yeah,
I think there's there's a mixture of I think there's a mixture of the Will and Carlton, right? Like we've all watched Fresh Prince and we all wanted to be Will and none of us wanted to be Carlton. Right. And there's a sort of mentality that we have where getting successful means that you become Carlton. Right. That's the mentality that we kind of have in our own minds. But being cool means that you're Will, you're suave. You might not be the best in school, but you have a good jump shot. You're popular, that sort of thing. And I think going back to O'Shea's question and kind of piggybacking off Tim, I think there has to be both. You have to kind of be cool in your own thing and own it. So I have a son who he's 8. He's nowhere near thinking about this sort of stuff, but he loves video games and he loves anime and he loves drawing. And so my job isn't to put a basketball in his hand and say, shoot jump shots, or to go up to him and say, you need to be learning your multiplication tables, and say, okay, let's excel in what you love, and let him love something and be successful in that, and aim to be really good at those things, and then watch as his creativity grows and his heart is kind of like expands, because if not, then we're going to end up putting the next generation into these boxes. You're either a Will and you're cool and you're popular and you're going to get by on being that, or you're going to be a Carlton who's going to be made fun of, who's going to be called a sellout, who's going to be called an Uncle Tom, who's going to be labeled as such and never seen as black enough. And that's always a worry for me, is Will is black. Carlton's not black enough. And it was in one of our chats, we showed that clip of Carlton saying, like, what, because I talk like this and I act like this, I'm not black? No, I go through the same struggles as you do. I might hit the books differently, but when I go outside, I have the same struggles that you do. And so it's allowing all of us as black men, anybody watching this who happens to be a person of color, know that you can be anything you want to be. You have to kind of like put yourself in that position, not allow society to dictate where you go, here or there, anywhere. Reem, you had something to say there too.
Yeah, the reality is this, and it's kind of just speaking to O'Shea asked the question, like, as black people, we get to this place and then it's like we don't aspire to do more. We're like, we've made it and that's it. So it's enough that we just got to Princeton, and so we'll just live here. Now, the reason why that happens off the time, we got to remember, and I brought this up in another conversation that we have, like, we might not be physically enslaved as black people anymore, but we've allowed culture or society to mentally enslave us to the point where now our lid is not the same lid that other races have. So our lid is here and everybody else is up here. And so when we get to this place, we're like, okay, we're happy we're able to get on top of that lid instead of moving it to that next level. And so we don't have that mentality of, it's not enough for me just to get into Princeton. It's not enough for me just to get into any university. It's not enough for me just to get out of the, like, I want to be the best once I get there. And so that's where we need to get out of this mindset of, it's just enough that I got out the hood and I know, or that I got to university, or it's just enough that I'm now in this workplace that, you know, other type of people are able to work in. We need to somehow be able to change that narrative in our minds as a culture, and that happens when we do stuff like what we're doing right now, when we're celebrating those that are doing things outside of playing basketball or are rappers or entertainers. We need to be celebrating and let it be known to the people of minorities of all the different opportunities that are out there for us, because as it stands right now, because we've allowed ourselves to be mentally enslaved, we don't think that that's something that we can achieve.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I want to go back. I want to mention, you're so right, man, about like mental enslavement of racial minorities, not just black people. I want to stress that it's not just a black thing.
Yeah, 100%.
Right.
But I want to go back to even what Chris said. You know what I mean, in terms of like letting your son excel at what he loves, and even that is a loaded statement, because, you know, I remember being a sponsor child to a camp that my family could never have afforded to go to, and that camp, in the 3 years that I went there, in the 3 summers, single-handedly changed the trajectory of my skills and abilities of what I'm able to do with my hands, and in terms of like what I know and understand how to do. I learned how to sail a boat, as well as I learned how to swim well. I learned how to ride a mountain bike properly. I learned how to rock climb, and none of these, like, I knew how to ride a bike, but none of these things had I been exposed to before I had ever gone to that. And so like there's the element of like of exposure to things, right? Like, so you want to talk about, sure, your son may love something, but the reality is that like your son might not even know what he loves in its entirety, because he just simply has not been exposed to a whole bunch of things, right? And so I think when we look at the big picture of this, it really comes down to like O'Shea was talking about being the best at something. I'm just talking about like, opening up the floodgates to black people or to minorities to be able to be exposed to a wide variety of things. It doesn't matter if you're the best at something or if you just want to get out. Anything, and the more that we can place pieces into different areas of culture is just moving the needle. And those people are going to be trailblazers. They might not be the best. You know how many golfers came before, black golfers came before Tiger Woods, that we have no clue who they are. Yeah. And then Tiger Woods comes on the scene and absolutely rocks course. But Tiger Woods was not the first black golfer to play the game. We got to understand that, right? So like these kinds of things, it moves us further and further into this equal culture. That's all I want to say.
Chris, go up, man.
So I did love you spoke of my son. So I'm gonna come at you, Haas. You spoke of my son. You spoke of my son. So I gotta come at you. No, I think when it comes to like we have an 8-year-old. The cool thing I love about it is that the world is a canvas for him. Like it's so early. Right, it'd be a whole different discussion if he was 16 years old and he's kind of like getting ready for high school. He's 8. So he gets to have those opportunities to go and many of you in this chat he's met before, and that's exposed to the different sort of people who look like his dad, who are kind of like his dad, but who are not. For him to have opportunities that I never got to have as a kid, and so what I mean by excelling in what he loves, I mean creating in him a passion for things that are beyond just the regular things that black kids are normally into. Mm-hmm. And allowing him to say, like, can I try that? And saying, okay, let's figure this out. Let's put the money together. Let's try this out. So he can at least begin to develop his palate, right? Like we have to be able to say to any kid, right? Any sort of kid at any point in time within means of finances and everything else like that, try it. Try it at least once, and you might find something that actually changes your life and then ultimately changes somebody else's. So it's exciting as a dad to have a son with whom I can do that with, because that wasn't done for me. It was pretty well, you're going to do this and that's it, right? Whereas with my son, I can say, okay, buddy, you are, we'll joke around and say, listen, if you love Fortnite, then you better get paid for it one day. You love drawing, you better get paid for it one day. Those sort of things, right? And he goes, I can get paid for playing Fortnite? And I'm like, yeah, I guess you can, like those sort of things. But allowing him to know, like,
for now,
you could be, until it becomes normal, right? But like to be able to say to him, like, anything that you are doing now, like, be the best at it and enjoy it. Right now, you're 8 years old, so enjoy everything that you can do that's fun. Because one day it's not going to be the same way. One day he's going to be having those tough conversations that we're having. You know what I mean? But for right now, he's 8. So that's why to be a kid and kind of enjoy those things. Enjoy being a beautiful black boy, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Jonesy?
Yeah, like we've got to create a way for the next generation to think that they can do anything. And they can go into any sphere or any area of influence. Like we make the joke as black people don't swim. Well, why don't they swim? Like, we can get them swimming, right? They can be the next Michael. They can be the next Michael Phelps. They could be whatever. Instead of saying, no, we can't do that because that's not what black people do. But we also have to, I think, make it easier for them, because we've all been there where we needed to work harder than the average person. That 100%. We needed to rise above and excel. Yeah. Because if we're looking on par with somebody that's not looking like us, they're going to probably get the job instead of us because of how we look. And so we've got to do our job in trying to break that down so that when the generations come behind us, they're not having that thought pattern of, I've got to excel 10 million miles more than the next person, but I can still excel and know that I am on the same level at them, and that they don't have to worry about their look or whatever the case might be, because I just have the education, I have the talents, I have the tools, I have whatever. And so we've got to create that for the next generation coming up, because as we know, we've all been experiencing that. We've all experienced at one point or other that somebody's looking at us. They're not looking at the things that we've done. They were looking at the color of our skin. And so we've got to try and change that narrative somehow. Anybody else got any thoughts on that?
I do got one last thing just to add. And so the biggest thing that I would say in terms of helping what you're saying, Jonesy, is that even us as parents, and Chase, you're doing that now, and Adam talked about it for his childhood, is that we gotta allow our kids to have a whole bunch of different avenues to be able to express themselves, and so we can't limit it to just the regular things that we always have done with black kids coming up. So we gotta let them play all sorts of different sports. We gotta allow them to play all sorts of different hobbies, whether it be chess, whether it be, we talked about chess earlier, just whatever, just different types of things. We've got to try to give them opportunities to be in camps, like what Adam spoke about, because we oftentimes don't put our kids in those situations and allow our kids to be exposed to different things outside of what is the regular. And that's the key. We got to think outside of what is the regular. So we got to step outside of our box and start thinking about what is it that everybody else is exposed to, and put our kids into those spheres, because that's how we'll be able to help them change that narrative in their mind. If you think back even when we were kids in kindergarten, that whole idea of black, white, yellow, we never thought about that. Why? Because we were just exposed to the kids and we didn't think anything differently. It's because of the exposure. As we got older, we realized different things, but exposure changes perspective in so many major ways. And so
100%.
If we can expose the next generation and then as well celebrate the stories of those that are doing different types of things, that's one of the major things that I feel that we need to do as a people to change the narrative. And it's not all about, I myself love basketball. You guys know that. And I'd love to see my kids play basketball, but I can't just do what I love because that's what I was exposed to. I gotta allow my kids to do totally different types of things so that they can have a totally different mindset or mentality than I had or the generations before me have had. And so the key is exposure. That's the major thing in my opinion.